hatred towards Christians, that the crime should be categorized as a hate crime.
Cisco police found stabbed here on Main Street early Tuesday morning.
We take our support for the people of Taiwan seriously.
A prominent tech guy stabbed to death in San Francisco. The Taiwan president makes a tour of the United States of America. KJP asked if the shooting in Nashville was a hate crime, and also France. Why is that important? I think it's actually very important. All that coming up on this episode of Daily Caller Live. Thanks so much for tuning in. Daily Caller Live starts right now.
2, 1.
Here we go!
That might be the only brown guy on earth named Jobob.
That is actually their name, Jobob.
Live from a hotel room in downtown San Jose. My name is Jobob. Thanks so much for tuning in on today. It is Thursday, April 6th, the year of our Lord 2023. This is Daily Caller Live, again, remotely because, things are happening and fun things are happening. I gave a fun speech last night to a Turning Point USA activism hub in San Jose, California. It was a great time. A lot of fun people, a lot of good stuff. But a lot of stuff to get to. I'm a little bit tired of the Trump stuff. So you know what? I've decided we're going to, as much as possible, have a Trump-free Thursday. Now, whether or not that ends up being the case, who knows? Because things happen. But I'm trying. I don't know. There's so much stuff going around with the whole Trump indictment and the political craziness. There's a lot of stuff. There's a lot of stuff outside of that I feel like we should be paying attention to. And one of those things is KJP, the White House press secretary, who is, for lack of a better word, I've been saying this since she took the job, not great at the job. Yesterday, though, she was asked about the Nashville shooting. Without getting into the specifics of it, this has been a point of contention, I think, with the terrible, terrible situation in Nashville regarding how we're talking about it as a media, as a society, and all that sort of stuff. So a person asked a question on at the White House press briefing room, and I thought it was a fascinating kind of point to bring up that kind of summarizes this whole thing and how the media is taking it. Listen to this, and we'll discuss on the other side. A pretty dang good question.
Former Vice President Pence said that if the shooter who killed 6 people in that Christian school in Tennessee was motivated by a hatred towards Christians, that the crime should be categorized as a hate crime. I'm wondering what the president thinks of that kind of designation.
It's not for us to decide.
Okay.
Okay, so that's basically it. That's the answer that she gave. It's not up for them to decide. The question asked being obviously is this a hate crime? Now, I've made jokes about hate crimes a lot. I've got a pretty, in my opinion, it's a stand-up bit that always does pretty well about, saying hate crimes are still crimes, but for some reason we've categorized them differently because of variables that may or may not exist and also may or may not be meaningful. In a lot of ways, I don't necessarily understand hate crimes. Having said that, if the roles were reversed and this was flipped, and this is a Christian going into a trans something and shooting up the place, which again, we all pray to God never happens. If that was the case, I think we can all, even lefties, if you're watching this, first of all, thanks for watching, could probably agree that the White House would be saying this is a hate crime. They'd have hate crime labeled everywhere. This is a hate crime. Because in their mind, a hate crime is an attack towards a specific group of people, specifically for that group of people's beliefs or outward appearance, which I think is crazy, but I don't know. That's what hate crimes are categorized as. But when asked, hey, this trans person that shot up a Christian school specifically, is that a hate crime? Again, shoe on the other foot, the White House would be all over this as a quote-unquote hate crime and not shut up about it and be just incessant telling all of us how bad people and so that was a good question, kind of put her on the spot. Shoot, I forget what the next question is. I'm just going to play this on. There was another. Actually, it was about this. There's a lot of other bills going on through various states. Indiana just banned, without going on too big of a tangent, last night at the event in San Jose, a student asked about the language. And I said, the lefty side of the aisle is so good at manipulating language. And even more right-leaning outlets or information gatherers / disseminators sometimes go along with that language. Dreamer is probably the biggest one that comes to mind. But gender-affirming care, which is, in my opinion, not really a thing. That's not a thing that exists. But to all that is to say, even your righty type outlets call it that. Not in this particular case. This is from the Washington Examiner. Indiana Governor Holcomb signed a bill that bans gender transition surgery for all minors, which will start being enforced in the summer. Indiana joins 12 states that have restricted or banned the medication to help transgender youth transition. That's what KJP's gassed about in a second. But Indiana just did that. The Texas Senate voted to ban children from attending sexually oriented performances, understood to mean sexually explicit drag shows. Again, also a very, very logical thing that I think most Americans would agree on. But a lot of this stuff is getting through at the state level, and KJP was asked about it. Watch this, and we will discuss on the other side. Check it out.
Today, Indiana just banned puberty blockers, hormone therapies, and gender transition surgeries for minors. I'm wondering what the president's reaction is to the Indiana governor signing that bill into law, and does the president have a position on at what age these kinds of therapies and surgeries are appropriate?
That's something for a child and their parents to decide. It's not something that we believe should be decided by legislators.
Okay. I have a lot of problems with that. A child to decide. I don't know. I caught a lot of heat for saying this. I was on Candace Owens' show like a year ago, and I made a big stink about children are stupid, children are dumb. And I didn't really mean it in a mean way towards kids. I was trying to hammer the point home that kids are not smart individuals and therefore should not be able to make big life-altering decisions. We don't let kids do so many different things, but apparently deciding that they want to permanently alter their physicality for the rest of their life, that's totally fine. There was a reel that we made of a Minnesota, I think it was the Minnesota attorney, the lieutenant governor of Minnesota said that as grown-ups, it's our job to listen to our kids and believe them. And then obviously I made fun of it, saying some kid told me he was a fire truck and didn't put out the fire. How rude of him. But what a bizarre thing to think / believe. And I would be so curious in a long-form sit-down, tell-all podcast what Joe Biden would actually say about this, because he doesn't believe any of this crap. The 80-year-old president of the United States, there's no way he's like, yeah, this is a totally good idea. But is going along party lines. So anyways, a lot of that's happening. Indiana, again, ban transition surgery for kids, which is thoroughly reasonable. And Texas ban sexually explicit drag queen shows for kids. I don't know if I talked about this much yesterday, but the CMT, the Country Music Awards, CMA Awards, whatever the thing that they had, their big shindig that they had over the weekend, was really interesting. With Kelsey Ballerini, who I'm a fan of, talking about drag queens. And I feel like a lot of the lefties that are pushing this sort of stuff in the entertainment world have no idea what they're talking about. I think that we will support drag queens. I think they don't understand. No. Nobody cares about drag shows. I don't care about, if you're an adult and you want to go, that's your form of entertainment, that's fine. That's not my thing. I'm not into that sort of stuff. But if you want to do it, that's fine. We're talking about kids here. And I feel like a lot of people miss that. But anyways, so there is that. Let's go to this really quick because we won't spend a ton of time on this. This is crazy. And this is a thing that I worry about constantly, especially living in California. I am in San Jose right now, which is not all that far away from San Francisco, where a tech, I don't know if I call him a tech billionaire, but a tech entrepreneur, Cash App. You guys all have Cash App. Not you all have Cash App, but Cash App is a pretty prominent app in the financial transaction space. The founder of Cash App was stabbed to death. Stabbed to death in San Francisco early Tuesday morning. I want to play this clip from, was it CBS? I'm not sure where this is from, but I'm going to play this clip and then kind of just briefly hit on some of the craziness going on in some of your big blue enclaves in the country. Check it out.
Tonight, friends and family are confirming what many fear. The 43-year-old man San Francisco police found stabbed here on Main Street early Tuesday morning is well-known tech executive Bob Lee. The father of two was chief product officer at cryptocurrency startup MobileCoin. Before that, he worked with former Twitter CEO Jack Dorsey at Square. Dorsey today called his death heartbreaking. Lee would later create the mobile payment service Cash App.
Bob's someone that I just talked to a couple days before and was planning on meeting him tomorrow in Miami. So it was really, really hit close to home, especially he got stabbed in front of my old apartment complex. So
Jake Shields is Lee's friend.
I'm a professional fighter and I lived right there and I started feeling unsafe.
Current Twitter CEO Elon Musk responded to news of the killing by taking a swipe at the city. Violent crime in SF, he said, is horrific.
Yeah.
San Francisco's district attorney also called the crime horrific. Now, Lee had just moved his family from San Francisco to Miami to be with his father. Friends say he was back in town visiting when he was attacked. Nora?
Yikes. Geez. Yeah, terrible. And that's what you... I hate to say that's what you get because this stuff actually seriously concerns me. There was a guy... NASCAR driver that got stabbed to death by some random transient at a gas station in the city that my brother and sister-in-law live in. If you live in California, make sure you're protecting yourself, whether it's, figure out how you can protect yourself, but because this stuff is crazy. As of right now, they think it's a random mugging / robbery attack, which is crazy. Man, I don't know. It's a wild world, and your soft on crime policies, especially in California, are not going to get anybody anywhere good anytime soon. All right, I want to move on to this because I think this is interesting. But before that, I want to talk. This being kind of like a more, I don't know, laid back show is kind of interesting. I got a text while watching that video on the front page of Fox News. If you go to Fox News's front page right now, this is kind of cool. I know this is like very, very off topic. If you go to Fox page's front page on foxnews.com, country star drops Anheuser-Busch product after Bud Light's trans activist campaign. And you click on this. Oh, shoot, I know you can't see this. Look at it. There's me. I just got a text about that, and I wanted to verify. So I was doing that while trying to also be on this stream. Kind of cool. Anyways, talk about France. Do you know what's going on in France? And if you don't, you probably should, because unfortunately, here's where we're about to lose a lot of viewers. And I don't mean to make people mad or upset. And I don't necessarily have a vendetta against, look, I'm not trying to make anybody mad here. I am just trying to work out math problems. What's going on in France looks like the inevitable conclusion of the American Social Security system. If you're not familiar with this, the French government provides retirement, guaranteed retirement, to everybody in the country above the age of 62. If you worked until you were 62, I believe the number right now is about 74% of your salary will be paid to you. That's the average, by the way. If you made way more than that, your government pension that you get from the French government, it might be less than what you made, but the average is about 74% of your overall income gets paid to you from 62 until you die. Now, when a lot of these rules, especially Social Security, was set at 65, people died at like 67. Wasn't a huge issue, especially in the United States. When Social Security was instituted, I think there was about 5 working U.S. citizens for every 1 U.S. retiree. That has dwindled down to about 1 in the United States and dwindled down to about 1 in France as well. All that's to say is that financially, France cannot continue doing what they're doing. And if something cannot continue forever, it must end at some point. The government in France has recognized, hey, we can't pay for this anymore. They are becoming financially insolvent. They have huge debt liability obligations that they have to take care of. And therefore, the government responsibly, by the way, maybe it's not responsible because they put themselves in this terrible position. The government has to say to the citizens, look, I know we told you that you can retire at 62, but we can't physically do that. We can't, there's no way in the known universe that we can actually do that anymore. And the stopgap fix for the temporary time period is to raise the retirement age in France to 64 instead of 62. The French people are not having it. There is a huge, so Crystal and I are going to England or London next week. And we wanted to take a trip over to France, and everyone was like, oh yeah, you should go to Paris. It's super cool there. And I was like, yeah, I would love to see Paris. And then we talked to a couple different people that said, but don't go right now because there's a huge trash strike. There's garbage piled 10 feet high in all of the streets of Paris, and it looks like chaos. And all of that is because the French government can't sustain the social system that they created and therefore have to raise the retirement age by 2 years. Look at this quick little video of people in France protesting the fact that the math in their heads don't work. Watch this. I think they estimated about 70,000 people are in France right now, in the main cities of France protesting. This is funny. Bob says, let them eat baguettes. Funny Marie Antoinette reference. So here's the thing. This is happening in France, and unfortunately, this looks like the preview of what is inevitably going to happen in the United States because our social security system is completely and entirely insolvent. And I know, I hear you from the comments. I know there are people that have commented on this constantly saying, we've paid into Social Security, we get that back. I get it. However, the math doesn't work on it. So when, during the State of the Union, Joe Biden said, we're not going to touch Medicaid, we're not going to touch Medicare, we're not going to touch Social Security, we're not going to do any of those things. Okay, that's fine as a political talking point, but the math doesn't work. And the horrifying thing is that both parties stood up and applauded that unrealistic, illogical statement from the President of the United States. I don't know what we do necessarily, but we have to do something because this rioting in the streets because the retirement age gets pushed up is the inevitable outcome of a bad structured system that has no other option than to collapse. Hate to be the bearer of bad news, but that seems to be the case of what's going to end up happening here. Lastly, I want to move on to this. We won't spend a ton of time on this, and probably we'll hop off here because I got to catch a flight in like an hour. So the president of Taiwan is making the rounds, and remember how Nancy Pelosi went to Taiwan? Apparently, that was such a big backlash for the nation of Taiwan that they don't want Americans coming over there. They didn't want Kevin McCarthy coming to Taiwan, so instead the Taiwan president is coming to us. Kevin McCarthy gave a couple quick words about this, and let me play this really quick, and then I want to briefly talk about Taiwan and its actual importance, and whether or not it's in U.S. interest in a war, whether we should just let them defend themselves. Watch this. Check this out, and we'll discuss quickly on this side.
The members here today make clear we take our support for the people of Taiwan seriously and are determined to speak with one voice. The relationship between the people of the United States and Taiwan have never been stronger.
Yeah, so Kevin basically saying, we stand firmly with Taiwan. Look, you can be upset about Ukraine and all that sort of stuff, and U.S. getting involved in wars that don't matter to us at all. Taiwan is a very, very, very interesting situation, especially considering the products that they produce. Taiwan makes up about 65% of the semiconductor manufacturing. Semiconductors are the little chips that are in your cell phone that everything you have that works electronically, the camera, this laptop, this coffee maker, the light switch, the thermostat, everything that has any sort of computing in it at any level has a semiconductor. Taiwan makes 65% of the globe's semiconductors. I believe China makes about 15%, and the rest of it is spread out throughout the rest of the world. If and when China does decide to invade Taiwan, is it in the American interest to defend Taiwan from a moral standpoint? I have no idea. From a financial standpoint, that's where it gets really, really murky. What happens if China were to take over Taiwan and therefore absorb 70 to 80% of all of the semiconductor manufacturing and therefore can use its leverage to cripple the United States of America? I don't know. What I would probably be a proponent of is U.S. investment into other countries and also domestic production of semiconductors. And obviously that's going to take a long time to ramp up to, so that we aren't dependent on Taiwan and possibly therefore then China, and therefore then have a vested interest in defending Taiwan against China. It would make sense that we would manufacture all of that stuff here on American soil and therefore not have to get involved if something like that were to happen. Now, until that happens, the question is, do we want to be entirely dependent on semiconductors from Chinese-run Communist Party China that has now taken Taiwan? I don't think so. So when we talk about having a vested interest in Taiwan, that hits at a very, very real level for real everyday products that everybody in the United States uses. And what that looks like if China does successfully take over the island nation of Taiwan, I don't even want to picture it. So there's that. A lot of people in the comment section talking about the Social Security thing. This is funny. Max says, Social Security is solvent? Haha, Jobob, it's the biggest pyramid scheme in the world. Correct. And it's also the worst performing fund. I don't know about in the world, but like your average mutual fund, like your safest investment fund, might earn 5%, 4%, some risk, but not a whole lot. Social Security, I think, as a fund, earns about 1%, probably less, over the course of how it has not been invested properly. they have raided Social Security and put it into the general fund. They've done so much wrong with Social Security that the bottom line is it won't end up working, and we will have a huge France-like problem on our hands coming up here shortly. Anyways, that'll do it for us today. Appreciate you sticking around, tuning in. I got to catch a flight back home, so we're about out of time anyway. But appreciate you sticking around, tuning in. We'll be back at the Dingy Bunker tomorrow on Good Friday. If you haven't made plans to go to church, you should probably do that. Friday and also on Easter Sunday. If you haven't given me a follow on any of your social media platforms, just type in JOBOB pretty much anywhere. You'll be able to find me. I think we're going to start posting a bunch of videos from the live events that we've been doing. Had a great event here in San Jose last night with the Turning Point USA Activism Hub. Probably will clip a bunch of that stuff up and put it on Facebook, because I think a lot of those conversations are pretty important and would be good to share with y'all. Appreciate you sticking around, tuning in. We will see you tomorrow, same time, different place. See you then. God bless America.